Oregon's big keys in this game. Number one, this is going to sound similar to my keys going into Montana State last week because I think there are plenty of similarities here. Oregon's a big favorite. Oregon should be dominant in the trenches. Oregon is at home, and I think Oregon's going to win and cover. So certainly some similarities, but as I've mentioned, I think Oklahoma State is a tougher task on paper than Montana State is. Key number one, score early. This is not an Oklahoma State team who at home last week, it was just week one, far be it from us as Oregon fans to judge a team for a week one performance against an inferior opponent. We know that teams can improve, but if Oregon scores early in this game, you get the crowd roaring. It's going to be a day game, not a night game. Autzen should still be hopping. I hope that fans take the comments from Mike Gundy this week as a shot at the Autzen crowd. I wasn't totally sure that it was, but you know what? Let's interpret it that way. Be on fire. This is the first time Oklahoma State's quarterback Zane Flores is starting a game on the road. It's only the second time in his career he's even entering a college football game. If you score early and put that pressure on Oklahoma State to try to play catch up, especially if you get a 2-possession lead early on and you're having to throw the ball because you feel like, boy, we can't take a bunch of time off this clock. We just don't. And then you allow the defensive line to pin their ears back. Good luck. Good luck trying to block the Oregon defensive line in obvious passing situations. So I think Cody mentioned earlier this week of Locked On Oklahoma State that, he didn't think the offensive line when he went back and watched it was as bad as he initially thought. I think he has a point in that regard. However, when you're starting from the point of the offensive line was bad, it wasn't as bad as we thought. Yeah, that was UT Martin. This is Oregon. You got Amari Washington and Mateo Uyunglele up front. Those guys are future early round NFL draft picks. Not even to mention guys like Tatum Tuioti or Barry Alexander or Aiden Breland or any number of guys that are going to see the field. I think we see plenty of rotation on that defensive line again. They're deep. They're really, really talented. I think guys up there could be in for a really, really big day. Maybe not so much in the sack department. Gundy's a good coach, and I think he's well aware that Oregon has the better roster in this spot. I don't think he wants his young quarterback to sit back there and try to hold the ball to take deep shots. I think he and his OC, who Dan Lanning has not coached against before, I've watched that interaction. We got him, boys, so many times this week. It's hilarious. And James Krabbe was a good sport about it. It was funny. It was a great moment. So I don't think they want to try and push the limits of what their O-line can do against this Oregon front. So I think you're going to see a lot of quick passes from Oklahoma State. This is an offense that'll run plenty of RPOs. I think we'll see a lot of that to try to get their offense in a rhythm, try to get Zane Flores in a rhythm. But you want to put Oklahoma State on their heels right away. Like if Oregon wins the toss, take the ball. Take the ball, go down the field, score a touchdown, and say, all right, you better keep up and set the tone early in this one. I think both sides of the ball can have a tone-setting start to the game, but yeah, score early. That's key number one. Key number two, and this was a great thing we saw last week against the Bobcats, but again, tougher task this week. You have a greater depth of receivers. Taco Dowler from Montana State, really good, went for over 100 yards, but Oregon's got to win third down. They were great last week defensively on third down, and criticisms that have been levied against Tosh Lupoi in the past have often, I think, stemmed from the lack of third down success. And I think people have correctly tied that to, is Tosh the best defensive play caller? They were great last week. Now, it's Montana State. You should be great. Well, same thing here. You got to be able to get off the field against Oklahoma State. Don't let them extend drives, because what Oklahoma State's path to keeping this game tight with Oregon is, and again, Gundy, based on his comments, just the fact that he's been one of the best coaches in college football for a couple decades at this point, makes me think he knows they can't get into a shootout. They can't go, like the Ohio State game at Autzen last year, 32-31 final. They're not capable of doing that, especially with a backup quarterback. So their formula to keeping it close is like Oregon State last year. What did Oregon State do? Ran the ball, took up a bunch of clock, got first downs, and shrunk the game. Once Oregon started getting off the field on third down in the second half of that Oregon State game, they went on a 27-0 run in quarters 3 and 4. So if Oregon can prevent Oklahoma State from condensing the game down to limit the total number of points scored, like if Oklahoma State's going to make this uncomfortable, the under total is going to hit, which is something I'm going to get a number for right now, courtesy of our friends at FanDuel, of course. But that's definitely, I think, where they 55.5 is the over-under. Oklahoma State wants that to be under. They do not want that to go over because that means Oregon's offense is creating explosives and it means they're trying to get into a shootout. I don't think that's what they're going to want to do. So winning third down, I think, is a huge, huge key for Oregon in this game. And then key number 3, pressure Zane Flores. This is his first road start. Ask Arch Manning how easy it is to go on the road to a Big Ten power. That's still a weird thing to say, but hey, Oregon's the reigning champs. I think they've earned that title. Ask him how easy it is to go make your first road start against a top 10 team in college football. Arch Manning's significantly more talented than Zane Flores. They actually came out in the same quarterback class, 2023. This is both their third year of college football, but Arch had played in more games, and Arch is a more talented player. He has better weapons around him, and he really, really struggled. And I don't think Arch is destined to suck forever. He was really bad against the Buckeyes, though. Flores should not have a phenomenal game in this spot. They, last week against UT Martin, when he came in for the injured Haas Haney, he was 13 of 20 throwing the ball for 136 yards. He had a nice 41-yard completion down the sideline to Terrell Davis. Is a really, really good throw. Kind of reminded me of some throws we saw Cam Ward make against the Ducks over the years. And I think that it doesn't have the same arm talent, obviously, but I just point that out to say it's not as if the guy is completely incapable or there aren't weapons. I'll get more into Oklahoma State's guys later. But I think you pressure him early, you rattle him a little bit and make them, make them get away from wanting to take those shots. Even though, I was just talking about condensing the game. I do think that Oklahoma State, based on how they played last week, they want to get the ball down the field a little bit. But if you bring everything up and make Oklahoma State think, okay, we can't take the shots down the field. Like if you take that away early because you're pressuring Zane Flores, I think you just limit what Oklahoma State can do offensively. One of you was asking me whether Zane Flores is a runner at quarterback. I wouldn't describe him as immobile. I wouldn't describe him as a great runner. They're going to run a hefty number of RPOs in this game, but he's not as good of an athlete as Dante Moore. He's not as good of an athlete as Dylan Gabriel. I don't even know what Vernon Adams maybe, like athletically. Vernon Adams could move, run a little bit. It's not really a feature of his game. Like, he's not a statue, he's not Phillip Rivers back there, but he's also not exactly Anthony Brown or even Tyler Shuck as a runner. So biggest keys for Oregon to getting a win: score early, put the pressure on the Oklahoma State offense, win third down, don't let them chew the clock, and pressure Zane Flores to rattle the cage and don't let him get explosive plays that can take the air out of the stadium. You do those 3 things, Oregon is going to be just fine in this game.